Hello everyone. So today we are going to learn about Amazon CloudWatch. It is basically a performance monitoring tool where we can check the performance of the resources that we are using into the cloud. Or the simplest way to realize the use of CloudWatch is to check the performance of our virtual machines, that how the CPU has been utilized over a period of time, so we can monitor the customer demands and the performance of these virtual machines by using this CloudWatch. So in this session we are going to uh, create one EC2 instance onto the cloud, and then we will check its CPU utilization through the CloudWatch. So let's start. So this is my AWS account. So the very first thing is we have to create an EC2. So you will search here EC2, or you can also onto the console you can find this EC2 here. So how to create the EC2 already we have discussed in our previous lectures, that how exactly the steps required to configure the EC2 or to provision the EC2. So here we are not going in detail how to provision the EC2 instance, but we will simply take all the default setting and create our virtual machine. So let's start here. So this is the EC2 menu shown to us, where you can see all the things related to EC2. So here there is no instance running presently on my account. So we'll go to the instances. Let's create a new instance. So here we are going to create a new instance. So we'll go for launch instance. So in general, whenever we want to launch an instance, we have to go through 7 steps, which is required to configure our virtual machine, where we are going to select what kind of operating system, what is the storage, and what is the security groups, what VPC. So all other things need to be uh, mentioned when we create our EC2. So here we will simply give a name. Let's say EC2 Cloud Demo. And then we quickly take any Linux machine, and we are using a free tier account. So we'll see this is visible here, and we can see that both are available for us under the free tier account. So let us take this one. So you can choose any of them, because both of them will serve our purpose. And then we will be keeping all the things default, and we need one key pair to connect to our machine. So here we will select a key pair. We will create a new key pair. Key CloudWatch, this is what we were doing. And then we will simply, so here we are using a window machine, and for that we will connect using a putty. So we'll create a key pair, and then you can see here this is done here. So this key pair has been, let us save into our onto our desktop. This is where I have saved this. Okay, then we will go to next step, and we keep all the things by default, and just click on launch instance. So we have chosen the VPC security group, everything by default given by the AWS, and our instance has been launched successfully. So here you can see it's not yet shown here. So let's wait for some time. It will take some time to configure and available for us. So let us click on refresh, and you can see that this our new instance has been created and visible to us, EC2 CloudWatch demo. And still it is status, so we have two status to be configured. Let us complete. Here you can see all the details: the private IP, public IP, the instance type, the BPC ID, all the things have shown here. So we have system status and the instance status. So when both of them will be showing here done, then only our instance will be ready to work on. So still it is not configured and it is under process. So you can see here it is still not done, and by the time we can see some more details about it. This is public IP assigned, and then monitoring is disabled. So monitoring is basically the CloudWatch service where you can and monitor the performance of your resource that we are using onto our cloud. So let's see more about this. So we'll go here, and here in monitoring, which is by default is not enabled. So here you can see many other options are there to check about the network packet which has been delivered in bytes, this the CPU utilization. So this time nothing is actually active and we are not able to visualize all these things. Now if you want to use the CloudWatch feature, then we can enable it, and also we can go to manage detailed monitoring. So by default, when we look onto the performance, it is showing the performance of CPU at an interval of 5 minutes, but we can go into more detail for, let's say, after every 1 minute we want to see the load onto the onto the instance, and we can see that how the CPU has been utilized. So let's see that what is the status here. So still it is, now it is shows 2 by 2 means system check and instance check has been done, and now it is ready. Now in order to avail these services, we need to also go for SNS notification. So simple notification service, this is basically a service uh, where the customer get informed about any of the thing which he actually looking for. So if you want to be notified for any of the event, any of the trigger, any of the state change into the resource, then he has to use this SNS service. So what we will do, we will just configure this SNS service. So SNS service is basically a registration to this service where we are eligible to get the notification from the AWS. So we can get this notification through various sources. So here we will be using the email source. So whenever anything is which we are looking for is happening onto our source, it will be informed to us through the email. So first we will go to SNS. So SNS service we will go. So once you have to register with this SNS, so this is a simple notification service. So you have to register with this service to avail the features or the facilities provided by this SNS. So basically, when we register for this SNFs, we need to configure one topic. So topic, basically you can say for what objective, what is the purpose for registering for this SNS. So we can just segregate for different purpose. Let's say one SNS service we are using for a particular task one, maybe other for task two. So this is kind of identified with the help of topic. So we are going to create one SNS topic. So we'll say create topic. We'll go for standard, and then we will go the name here. So So we'll give the name that so that we can easily differentiate that this is the SNS that we have defined for this particular exercise. So SNS CloudWatch demo, and description you can just give that this is we are using for this purpose. Whatever you want to write, you can write in the display name here. Then the remaining things we'll keep as it is. There is no need to do anything. Simply create topic. So once you create the topic, so it has been done. Now see some details about it. Now topic has been done, but we have to subscribe. So we have to subscribe with a subscription is basically we have to associate one, for example, email, so that we may be contact or informed through this source. So we got to go for subscription. So go for subscription, and so this is our ARN, means Amazon resource name. So this is the name we have given for our topic. This is SNS CloudWatch demo. So what kind of source we want to, so there are different ways through which we are informed. So we want to use this email, that we want that our notification should be sent through the email. Then you have to write your email which you are looking for. So let's say I will write my email ID, and then we'll just scroll down, and that's it. So it will register our email, and it is done. But you have to confirm. So based on this kind of input, one mail is sent to you and you have to confirm. So you have to check your mail. So it says pending confirmation. So now I will check my email ID, and I find that on my email ID I got one request. So now I am going to confirm it. So I have confirmed from my email, I have checked, and on my mailbox I got one request. And then we can just go back and go to topic. So this is our topic that we have created. Click on it, have a look. Okay, so you can see here this is confirmed. So now we are eligible to get the notification from the AWS. Now we have to go back to our EC2. So here you can see that this is our EC2 instance which is running. And now if we go to monitoring, we will see that this is which is not enabled here. So now we will enable it. So we can just go for detailed monitoring, and we click on enable. That means we are saying that we want the detailed monitoring. So click on save. So here you can see the monitoring has been enabled, and now we can uh, have a better look onto our CPU utilization on our virtual machines. So again, just go here and just look more about it. So here you can see in the monitoring. So now you can see that it shows some information. You can just make it enlarge. So this is you can see here that it will show this all the entire graph is shown in the difference of 5 minutes, because it's shown here. We can make it uh, at 1 minute. So by default, 5 minutes is given to us, but when we go for 1 minute, then it will be chargeable. But since we have a free account, so we have some limit that we can use up to that much performance monitoring of 1 minute also. So let's refresh this and see. So this is how it is, like somehow when it increase first, and then it is like decreasing. And as we know that we are doing not much work on our machine this time. So now what we will just create an alarm that if our machine CPU utilization is like below 20% or 30%, and then what should happen. So it should inform us one thing. It should inform to us that the utilization is below any threshold value that we have mentioned. And then also we can kind of create a condition that when the utilization is less than up to the threshold value, then it should be stop or terminate. Or if it is going to go beyond any defined threshold value, then we want to do a kind of load balancing or whatever is required onto the your market strategy that we can do. So we can closely monitor the performance, and based on that we can take decision to enhance our business and can satisfy the customer requirements. So we can just go back here. Now let's move to the CloudWatch. So here you can see, and this is what we have seen. Now moving to the CloudWatch. Let's open onto the news screen. So here we have a number of metrics which are available for all these things. For EBS we have 81, for EC2 we have 174. So many things are there that can be done with this. So we'll go to the EC2, and we are monitoring per instance. So we are selecting this, that for individual instance we want to monitor. So on this we can do a lot of things are there. So we want to utilize the CPU, we want to see the CPU utilization. So here we can look for this. This is the CPU utilization, and this is what uh, is our EC2 CloudWatch demo. And then we will select this metric. So all these fields have auto filled, and then we have to just see that how we want to monitor it. So let's say we want to monitor at interval of 1 minute. We want to monitor very closely, and then here you can see how it will look like. And we will give some threshold value. Based on the threshold value, it will inform to us. So let's say when the threshold value is uh, so when the performance is less than uh, let's say 40%, then it will going to make an alarm. So we already have now this alarm to associate with the SNS topic that we have already created. So SNS topic we have already here there. So we can go here, and then we will select our SNS topic. This is the SNS CloudWatch demo that we have created for this particular exercise. And then this already been associated with this email ID. So whenever the threshold condition has been matched, one email is being sent to you. Then go back, and then we can go with the EC2 action. That what action, so there are many possible actions are there with the EC2. So in alarm means whenever the resource goes beyond or outside the defined threshold, that is in alarm condition. Okay means this means the it is within the limit, whatever the threshold value is defined, it is within the limit, then it's okay. Insufficient data means the monitoring is no more capable to provide you the result because the data is not sufficient to give you the monitoring kind of effects. Means, for example, if you have set that you want to get the utilization after every 5 minutes, then that means you cannot get any information after the 3 minute, after the 4 minute. You can only get its information after the 5 minutes. Or let's say you have said that if there is a continuous CPU utilization below the 20% threshold value for the two consecutive time scale, then definitely you are going to uh, get the result after the two slots. So if there is only one slot, and if you are given a slot of 5 minutes, that means you can get your first effect or the first uh, graphical analysis after only 10 minutes. So this is the meaning of insufficient data. Now what is required? So it says that whenever the condition which we have set, that threshold, if the threshold is like 40%, so whenever our utilization is going below the 40%, then we want to stop the instance. We want that the instance should be stopped. And that's all. We just write here alarm name. So let's say the alarm name is CloudWatch alarm for EC2. You can write any name. This is just we are giving so that we can find out that this is we have used for what purpose. So this is what we have set, 40%. We have set that if it goes below 40%, then it is a scenario for alarm. So this is all the condition that we have set. And what is the action required? The action is like you have notification will be sent to us and it will stop the EC2 instance. If you want to change any of this, then you can go to edit part and you can change it, and it is create alarm. So it is now done, and you can see that action is enabled. So now if we go to the EC2 and see what is happening in the EC2, because we are not using and not doing anything on this, though it is running, but there is no load onto this machine. So we are assuming that the utilization is below 40%. So because it is below 40%, that means that it is going to kind of met the condition which we have set there. And because the condition is being met, so it will be going to stop. So it will just check for that duration of 1 minute, and then it will stop it. So let us refresh it, and it's still running. So let's wait for some time and see that it is going to stop or not. So let's explore more about the CloudWatch, that what actually we have set so far. So let's have a look on the metrics. Okay, let's go on to the alarms that we have set. In alarm we have set one. This is what we have set, and the state it said is in alarm because the utilization is less than 40 for one data point within 1 minute. So it says that it's already been invoked, and definitely when we go back to the EC2, we will realize that the EC2 instance is going to stop. Let's see more about this. So already we have seen this. Let's have a look. So state is in alarm, that is already been met. So if you want to change anything in this alarm, you can go to action and go to edit, and you can make any changes if you which you want to make. So just have a look that because many times we will set the alarm and then later we realize that we need to make some changes. So this can be done using the edit option. So just have a look on to the setting that we did, just for a review, that we have just set this period 1 minute time here, and then we go to this static part, and then we set the kind of threshold that when it goes less than this, and then see what we can do here in editor configuration. So there is not anything required at this point, and that's it. And see what next we have set. We set in alarm condition, and we use our previous SNS topic, and then we give our email ID here, and then we just set the alarm straight trigger, that it is going to in alarm, and it stop the instance. Okay, this already okay, fine. And then again next we have some more setting we did. We have given the name here, and then we have configured the entire metric with alarm is like this. Okay, so this is done now. So because we have not made any change, so there is no need to click on update alarm. If we have made some change, then only it is required. Okay, then we have a go to the EC2 instance and see what is the status here. And you will find here that has been stopped because it meets the threshold value. And not only the stop, you may have get one. So if you have configured with your email address, then you would have get one email. So let me check my email ID, and yes, I got one mail, for the reason being specified that uh, your instance has been kind of stopped for meeting the given condition. Okay, now we can also change our condition. For example, let us go to the event. Okay, so let us look to the next part. Let's say here we want to utilize more options of CloudWatch. So we have seen that we have created the alarm, we have used the metrics. Now we will also go for events. So with the events also we can associate some rule. Based on the rule, we can control our resources. So let's say create one rule. So we'll go to the Amazon event bridge here, and then we will be uh, giving one rule name here. So let's say it's a default one only, and then we can find rules, and so either if you have created the rule, then you can use the actually existing rule, or you can create a new one. So let's say let us create a new rule just to understand how it is done. So the rule name is, let's say, rule for CloudWatch EC2, and then you can just keep this as a default, and you want to associate the rule with any pattern, or you want to make it a time based. So we will want to associate some pattern. If that pattern is visible onto the resource, then only that rules will be fired. So go to the next. Okay, so here AWS events, yes, we want to make these rules on the AWS events. We'll keep it like this only. And then you want to provide any customized event, or you want to use the AWS based only. So we will use AWS based, and then many events may be possible. For example, we will go for the EC2 based events. So let's say when the EC2 instance failed refreshed started, okay, we'll go here, and then we can go down, and here we will select what kind of pattern we are looking for. So first we will select the EC2, and on the EC2 we will see what are the different events that are associated. Events means when, for example, when any state has been changed. For example, when EC2 gets started, it's got stopped, it got refreshed, it got terminated. So all are these the state that is associated with the EC2. Likewise, with every other resource, some events are associated. So here we can select all events, or you can say EC2 instance change notification. Fine. Okay, we will go for the instance change. Whenever there's a change in the instance, then only we want to get the notification. So any type of change, or you want a specific state. So state we will be looking for whenever it is going to stop or terminate or start. So let's say when it is going to let's say stop. So already we have made a alarm for a stop. Whenever it is going beyond the threshold value, it is going to stop and send us a message. So let's go for running. So whenever our AC2 gets started, it will be informed to us. So running, and then okay, next. And then we have to select a target. So target means how we are going to notify it. So we have used the SNS topic. So we'll go for the SNS. So SNS topic will select, and the topic already we have uh, made, that is CloudWatch demo, and that is all for this setting, and that's all. We click on next, and this is just for review what we have set so far. So it is enabled, and so it looks fine, everything is done. And then create a rule. Created successfully. Now just to realize what is the impact of this, so we have created one rule that whenever our instance is going to change any state, for example, we have said when it is going to start, then we are sent a notification. So again, we are monitoring our resources, that at this at for any instance what is to be done, and we want to get notified. So let's go to the instance, and here this is actually stopped. Let us start it again. So we'll go here and start the instance. So already we have set a rule that whenever any instance is going to run, it will be notified to us. So let's wait when it gets started, and it will send one email to us. So now it is showing running here, and it is checking the status. It has to check the two status. The system and the instance status need to be checked, and once it is done, it will be available for us. And once it is ready, it will be informed to us, that we can also cross check in our email ID. So this email has been sent just 0 minutes ago. So this has been informed to us. We have seen that how to use the CloudWatch for monitoring the performance. uh, we can set the alarms, we can also create the rules. So we see that it's running, and also we have set a rule that if when it goes beyond 40%, it has to be stopped. So we will soon find that it is actually going to stop because it is not uh, actually meeting the condition, and the threshold value will be moved. So here, because the threshold value has been met, so it has been stopped because it is CPU has not been utilized for 40%. Now we can again do some tasks to engage the CPU so that it can engage and try to utilize more than 40%, so it will not going to stop. So let us connect uh, let us connect with our EC2. So for this, let us use putty. So first we go to the EC2 instance. This is our EC2 instance. We will check what is the public IP. So public IP is this. Just copy this, and then we will go to putty for connecting to it. So we'll use putty. So here I write the IP address, then go to SSH, and sorry, go to this, and then we will go to auth, and then we have to apply the key, and then click on open. Then it will connect to our virtual machine. So it is not going to connect. Let us see what is the mistake here. So here we will go to our instance, and this is stopped here. It's not running. So let us first make it in instance, get it run, start the instance. So it is going to start, and once it is started, we will try to connect with our EC2 using a putty. Let's close this, and then again go to putty, and go to our stance. It's not yet started. Now it's running, and still it is checking the status. Let us click refresh. So we'll see what is the IP address assigned to this machine. So just copy this, and go here, paste here, then go to, and once again check with the status, is it running or not. Go to the instance. Still it is not, it is still initializing. Let's see is it able to connect or not. Yes, we are able to connect. So what actually we are trying to do, so if we earlier we have seen that when our instance is running, and after 2 minutes, because we have set that just check for 1 minute, and whenever it meets the threshold we have given 40%. So whenever it is not fulfilling the threshold value, it has to be stopped. But now we're trying to engage our machine while doing some job, so that the threshold will not go below the 30 this 40%. So let us give some command as let's say sudo su, and then let us try to install something or update something to keep busy this virtual machine. So let's try yum update. We'll try to update. Okay, it's updating and it's all been updated. Then let's say we will be okay, let's say install some docker into it, and so we'll write yum install docker. Okay, it's working, and here you can see we can refresh this and you will find that it is running. It's running, and also I believe this has been checked, and also we have, let us give the same command again to keep it engaged. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to engage our this virtual machine, the EC2 instance, so that its threshold value will be above 40%, and because it's above 40%, so it is not going to stop. And you can see here that it is still running, and already the 2 minutes have been passed. So that's all for this video, and we have seen that how to make use of the CloudWatch, how to set the event, how to set the metrics, how to set the SNS, how to generate the alarms. So all we have seen here. So this is all for this video. Thank you very much.